Welcome back, friends, to the Matt Townsend Show. You know, we live in a constantly changing world. The only constant we do have, though, is that we can always expect trials and hardships to come. We also always will have a choice for how we handle those. But it all doesn't have to end with the difficulties of life. Even when you've hit a low point, you know, that might include a divorce, unemployment, loss of a loved one, or sickness, whatever it may be, our next guest, Marcel Schwantes, founder of Leadership from the Core, is here with us this morning to teach us how we can take these hard parts of life and use them to reinvent ourselves for the better. Marcel Schwantes, thank you so much for being with us.
Good to be here. Thank you, Matt.
This is, I think, a cool subject. We talk about life is hard. We hear it in the news. We watch the political process that just seems like a bad nightmare sometimes. And all of a sudden, life gets heavy. But you've put together, for Inc. magazine, 10 timeless habits that will change our lives right now. Did you learn these just consulting with people from your leadership program?
I learned these, Matt, as a result of having made so many mistakes. In fact, I referenced that in the first paragraph, I believe, where the most horrendous thing that happened in my life was a divorce.
Yeah.
Right? I think you mentioned it. And out of that situation, I had to reinvent myself. Well, what does that mean? I mean, I wanted to be a better person because all of the decisions leading up to that point were about self-gratification. It was all about me, not being a person of service, thinking about the other people. So I was probably the most arrogant person I knew at that time. And so I knew that I had to figure out a way to get out of this mindset that was all about serving me and serving my needs. And so as I read and studied and obviously picked up a few degrees along the way and some certifications, I realized, hey, I'm missing the mark here. I need to get with the program. And so I began to put together just kind of a template for living the life that I wanted. And some of it came out in that Inc. article.
That's great. I mean, and if they just could take one idea, it's a great, I think, breakthrough for any of us. And in fact, I challenge all of us that, as we're listening, which one of these could stand out that we could do immediately? Start this second, today, to start doing. Marcel, walk us through some of your points and why they matter so much. I guess the first one is we need, especially, I love the idea when you're down and you just are cornered and you feel stuck. Number one, choose to live in peace. Talk about that.
Yeah. Well, peace is, I'm an entrepreneur, Matt, and so I am, I'm in a startup mode for my business. And so in getting a launch going and chasing after investors, you tend to want to compare yourself with other entrepreneurs that are further down the path. And so to live in peace for me as a business owner, first and foremost, is not to compare myself, okay, with what are the other Joneses doing, right?
Yeah.
And so living in peace is just focusing on myself and my own path, because that's what's going to, and believing in myself that the path that I'm headed down is, and where I am today is exactly where I should be. Because once you start to compare yourself and you start to doubt your own ability, you start to doubt where you should be in life, and then that just kind of derails you from the path of peace.
Right,
so
yeah.
That's number one.
Well, I mean, it seems like it's so easy to have that comparative mentality where you're looking at the other people your age or in your industry and you're thinking, oh, man, why are they getting that break? I've been fighting for that break forever. And you become so comparative that you can't sit in the space you've been given, the space you are.
Right. And so in living in peace, it helps you to stick to the plan and keep moving forward towards attaining your vision.
Yeah. Another idea then, I guess, is trusting the process. Is that the process of life?
It's funny is that when you live in peace, obviously the peace allows you to trust in the process, not only of life, but whatever your current situation is. I talk about surrender as a word that a lot of type A's don't like because it comes across as weak. Like, surrender to what? I mean, come on, am I giving up all of a sudden? No, the surrender that I'm talking about It's just kind of just surrender yourself to the moment, to the outcome, and just believe in the process. So for me, it's believe in the process that I'm exactly where I should be, and that the business is going to take off, and that I'm going to find venture capitalist money eventually down the line. If that's where the process takes me, right? Mm-hmm. But the point is just to surrender to the outcome, because believe me, the opposite of that is is a lot of anxiety and a lot of stress that you don't want to take on.
Mm. Oh, especially I look in your industry. I mean, everybody's fighting. They're fighting for the next buck. They're fighting for the next advantage. So great advice, I guess, in a business world, but really I can even see in my own personal life with my own family, trusting the process of where I am and what I'm going through. Live happy is another idea you give us. Again, how do we get happy, Marcel, when life's not handing us happiness?
It's always a choice, Matt. It's always a choice. But I talk about the studies that have been coming out that you choose your path, whether you even when things are down and you're going kind of the chips are down, you're going against the grain. If you choose to get up in the morning today and you tell yourself, today I choose to live happy, and then you create your day around things, activities, conversations, whatever it is that are going to cause you to feel good about yourself. So I mentioned the things in living happy. Use the tools of meditation, prayer, journaling, right? And then, of course, the mindfulness movement is so popular right now,
right?
Because it helps you to kind of stay in the moment and not worry about tomorrow, next week, a year from now, and just to kind of stay present to what your current situation is. Because sometimes we tend to blow things out of proportion when it's not that bad. When you compare yourself to the worst case scenario and what the things that are happening around the world. And when you focus just on, okay, where I am right now, it could be a lot worse. So that comes by choice, is to choose to be happy, and then create. And so what happens is when you choose to be happy, good things start to come back your way. So there's a return on your choice to live happy.
Yeah, and it seems like once you've kind of reached that level personally, you want to now take it to your relationships, and you mentioned the need to move to have great relationships as well.
Well, that the studies coming up, I reference the Harvard study of adult development, where they followed for 75 years. They followed about 724 men in the 1930s throughout the course of their lives, career, marriage, divorce, parenthood, etc. And the response from one of the original directors of the study, who's, by the way, is in his 70s now himself, and he says that the only thing that really matters in life are your relationships to other people. And when you studied about the benefits of great relationships, and I'm not talking about quantity, by the way, I'm talking about the quality of your relationships, right? It's been proven that people actually live longer, live happier. Those that are nearing the age of 50 right now, if you are surrounded by a great community of friends and family that you're well connected, and you have a strong social network, by the time you hit 80, you're going to be experiencing better health than those people that kind of are isolated or feel lonely at the age of 50. So absolutely has tremendous benefits. So start forming those relationships now if you're in your 40s and 50s, because you're going to live a long life.
Yeah, wow. I mean, it's true. Your gut kind of tells you that the people matter, but who would have known that it would have such an impact on us? Again, we're speaking with Marcel Schwantes, who wrote an article for Inc.com. If you just look up Marcel Schwantes and Inc.com, you'll get right to the article. We're going to take a break, come back, and continue this discussion and let you learn more about Mark's work, also from Leadership from the Core and some of his servant leadership program and development. We'll take a break. We'll be right back, helping you live a healthier life, folks. This is the Matt Townsend Show. Welcome back, friends, to the Matt Townsend Show. And today we're talking with Marcel Schwantes, who wrote an article, 10 Timeless Habits That Will Change Your Life Right Now. He wrote it for Inc.com. You can check it out on Inc.com. And it's really, a lot of it just comes from his own personal experiences, but also his work at Leadership from the Core. Marcel, welcome back to the show. Thank you again for being with us.
Good to be here. Thank you.
One of the things you mentioned in your article is at some point you got to give back, and choosing to give is something that it's one of those timeless habits that we could do right now, and it would immediately inject, some, I guess, joy, happiness back in our lives.
Yeah, and we have to get out of the sort of the stigma of giving is that it's attached to money, and that, well, I don't have any money. How can I give? Well,
Right.
we can give so much outside of of money. For example, is there a person that you can mentor that you can give your time to, and perhaps to teach somebody something new, a skill? Is there a cause that you can support? That you can give of your time, say, to volunteer at a shelter, for example, or support a cause. And basically, giving is to have a pay-it-forward mentality, right? That's a mindset. That's a mindset that we choose to get up in the morning and say, I'm going to be a giver today. In fact, as an entrepreneur, I get to go to a lot of networking events, and there's something unusual about most networking events. If you've been to, like a Chamber of Commerce, for example, people show up with their business cards, and it's more of what Adam Grant in his book Give and Take calls the matchers, right? You show up with your business card, you hand your business card, and you get one back. It's kind of a matching thing, right? Scratch your back, I'll scratch yours. You're expecting something in return. Well, in giving, there's another form of giving, and this is really profound. A guy by the name of Adam Rifkin is an entrepreneur, a serial entrepreneur out in the Silicon Valley, and he started something called the 5-minute favor. And the 5-minute favor is documented in Adam Grant's book, Give and Take, by the way, if you want to pick up a copy. But 5-minute favor is basically showing up to a networking event and giving something without any expectation of return coming back at you. And so it can be, say, a 5-minute favor where you connect somebody to somebody, you make an introduction, or you write a quick review of someone's book, or just, or even critique somebody's resume. So it's giving a selfless act, basically. And these 5-minute favors are popping up now, and all over the country. And what's happening is people are coming in, and it's becoming so popular. And what they're finding is that those people that give, even without expecting anything in return, the return is going to be even higher in the long term. So they're going to experience even more success by giving without expecting anything back.
Yeah. And it almost seems like this gets to your deeper core, the deeper person that you are. You're deeper than your business that you're selling to, at these events. Instead, let me just connect with you one-on-one, person to person.
Yeah, that's correct. And, it helps to foster sort of that servant leadership mentality that we're hopefully going to be touching on in a few minutes here.
In fact, get to that, because that's part of what I see as I look at some of your final points. Choose compassion and kindness. Choose to have faith. Choose the good fight. Make decisions full of integrity. These are kind of virtues, right? These are, I guess they're not always seen as business principles per se, but these are things that you're saying will immediately drive you to some state of happiness.
That's true. In a state of happiness, whether in your personal life or in your business life.
Right, they work there too.
Right. And so these as we round out here the last 5, they're really tenets of a servant leader, somebody that puts the needs of others first. Obviously, if you're going to exercise compassion and kindness, it's not about you, right?
Right.
In fact, I want to reference something that I saw recently. Sean Acker is the best-selling author, and he's that scientist that sat down with Oprah and basically told her the 5 steps to kind of train your brain to become more positive. And he told Oprah that one of the things that people do, that according to his research, obviously this is, there's empirical evidence here to suggest that you can become happier by doing this every day. And he says, express compassion and kindness. Basically, all it takes is for 2 minutes a day, you write a text or write an email praising or thanking someone you know. And that's it. And you do it, for a different person each day. And what Sean Acker is saying, and he says this in his wildly popular TED Talk, by the way, you can look it up. He says that people who do this become known as positive leaders with strong social connections. And it's the greatest predictor of long-term happiness.
Wow.
It comes from extending that kindness and that compassion. And hey, you can start today by doing it 2 minutes a day. So,
isn't that easy?
Great.
It's, I guess that's what I love about this, because it's the simplest solution, and it works, and it's almost intuitive. You can think by just writing that letter, or by just serving that person for a few minutes, it's going to make them. It's going to deepen a connection, but it will also simultaneously make your life better, more fulfilling.
Yes,
richer.
And you can transfer that to the workplace. You're in the management role. It works even wonders, because this is how you value your employees, and in return, they're going to give you their best effort. They're going to show up with their best work.
Talk about one of the points is make decisions in full integrity. One of the things we see going on in the political race of presidency, a lot of people not trusting the two leaders. Talk about integrity and trust, and what does that do to you personally? Like, why is this a motivator that will immediately change me?
Yeah, it's the old saying is the integrity is doing the right thing even when nobody's looking, right? So
Right.
It gives you. It's basically acting in integrity is acting according to your values, and so honesty is obviously a big one for me. Honesty, authenticity, being able to show up with your feelings, right? If you don't agree with something, you need to express that disagreement in a respectful way. But what integrity does is that it allows you to live you have a clear conscience by walking in integrity. You're walking the talk, right?
Mm-hmm.
People don't question your motives. They know that you're not out to manipulate or take advantage, right? And so that's what a person of integrity does. And this is especially applicable in a leadership role. You can't be a leader without integrity, because leadership is all about character and influence.
Yeah.
So those things are all wrapped up in integrity.
And it sells the message, right? And it makes it easier. If you have that integrity, people trust what you're saying more, I guess, instantly than if they have to kind of work through all of the other stuff they know about you.
That's usually the case, Matt, is the people that respond to the best leaders are the ones that they can trust. And integrity goes hand in hand with that.
That's powerful. Talk a little bit more about the steward leadership and the concept of that. We talk about that a lot in my church about, we have a stewardship of the land, of our family, and it's a different approach to leading. It's not so domineering.
Right. Well, servant leadership, it's certainly not a new concept. It's not a new. There's no,
right.
Not a big business lingo. It goes back for centuries. I mean, if you want to reference servant leadership, you can go back to the world's major religions talk about servant leadership. As far back as in Christian terms, Christ washing the feet of his disciples was an example of servant leadership. But how does that translate to the modern culture in the modern workplace? Well, let me flash forward to 1970. A guy by the name of Robert Greenleaf studied what was happening in the workplace. At that time, he was an executive for AT&T, and over the course of about 30 to 40 years, he came up with all of the behaviors that the best leaders had, and then wrote a book about it, an essay actually, and described that all of these things that employees are responding to. The leader that was a good coach, and a good mentor, the leader that respected you and encouraged you. Those were, and back, this is back in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, translated to people that were actually serving, and in serving, they served and they led. So there's that paradox, right? But they served first, and then that pointed them to great leadership, and the people responded. And so he started, he wrote a book, and now, when you think about leadership as a whole, Matt, I don't even use servant leadership as a term, because it kind of it's still counterintuitive, and people question the servant part, right?
Yeah.
That it's too weak, and it's doormat material, etc. So, but what's happening is that when you look at the tenets of servant leadership that Greenleaf researched and talked about, that's just making the case for awesome leadership today, right?
Right.
So a servant leader is a great listener. Well, the best and most powerful leaders that get people to trust them, they are excellent leaders, right? The servant leader that shares his or her power, you'll find that now in the best cultures, where employees are engaged because they have a voice and they can express their voice without the fear of being reprimanded, right? To provide input and ideas. This is what a great leader does today. He invites in those different perspectives from diverse ideas from different people, personalities, gender, whatever, right? Age, etc. I mean, right now, millennials are now the biggest segment of our population is composed of millennials. So we have to adapt a little bit to the millennial mindset as well, and invite them into the conversation and give them a seat at the table, right? And then groom them to become future leaders as well. So those are all things that I would make a case to say that the best of leaders do today. And Greenleaf was talking about it 30, 40 years ago. Yeah.
Isn't that, again, it's so principle-based that it's, I guess it will always kind of stand the test of time. Talk about, as we wrap this up, I always like to ask the one thing. So if we've talked about 10 different points plus many more, and if there's one thing that we could just do today, every one of us, simple, basic, what would you say is the one thing that would make the biggest change in your life right now?
For me, I think that this speaks to my personal vision, my personal goals in life, but that is to give. The giving part. The whole purpose for me to establish a business is to create enough wealth to give back, to pay it forward. And my wife and I have this personal mission where we want to fight and help to end the sex trafficking problems that we see across the country. And I'm in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and we have a problem with that here in our own backyard. And so obviously we want to support the causes that fight sex trafficking and human trafficking. And so that is a whole purpose for creating wealth through our different businesses and ventures, is to be able to give back towards that cause.
That's beautiful, and I love the cause as well. So we'll have to get you back on, Marcel. We'll keep watching your latest writings as well. And I guess is the best place for them to get a hold of you at leadershipfromthecore.com?
That's it, leadershipfromthecore.com, or you can find me on Inc., like you mentioned.
That's it. Marcel Schwantes, thank you so much for your great work. Keep it up.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Again, go check him out on Inc.com as well, or leadershipfromthecore.com. There's power, folks, and little steps, simple things, and they seem sometimes just like too easy. But why aren't we doing them if they're so easy? Well, I tried it. It didn't work. I tried giving, and it just didn't work. Come on. Then give more. We'll take a break, folks. Come back to a little Coach's Corner. We've also got to get to our hero of the day. A lot going on. This is the Matt Townsend Show. Stick with us.